Morning. I just started. I just put my first batch into the pot. And get my boards wet now. Nice and wet. My oven's nice and hot. It's currently 400 degrees Fahrenheit. It's gonna fall down pretty quickly though. And yeah, just waiting for my bagels to cook. Play a couple tunes while I wait. I'm just gonna play some simple tunes. Thank you. They're still on the bottom of the pot. They're still frozen, so it's still have a few, probably like 5 minutes, I'm gonna say. I like to keep my boards wet. That's to ring in the new year. I don't think I've played that yet this year. So, there you go. Happy New Year. My bagels are just popping up to the top now. So, I'm just gonna wash my hands and then I'm going to start making bagels. I need to get some gloves from the back. I'll just be back in a minute. Hello. Oh, thanks. Thank you. Thank you for all the hearts. Thanks for watching. I know sometimes the stream can be sort of slow, I think. I don't know, I've never watched the stream, so actually. What am I missing? Oh, I need another cloth. I'll be back. I just needed a clean cloth. Here we go. Wipe my boards. I usually recite poetry, or I can tell a story, whichever is your choice. If you'd like to hear me recite a poem, or I can tell you a story, it's up to you. Okay, I'm gonna warm up with a poem here. This is the Pied Piper of Hamelin. Well, hello, welcome. I'm located in Vancouver, Canada. I'm actually this location's in Surrey. I'm making Montreal style bagels. Oh hey, welcome to the stream. I'm doing well, thank you. Just doing the same old, whatever that is. In a new store. This store opened, I think, the beginning of December, so. Oh yeah, oh hey, thanks. That's a great nickname, thank you. I wonder if they could have done something like this in the medieval times. Oh, these are a little bit soft. Well, here I'm going to recite a poem. This is the Pied Piper of Hamelin by Robert Browning. Hamelin towns in Brunswick, my famous Hanover city. The river Weser, deep and wide, washes its wall on the southern side. A pleasanter spot you've never spied. But when begins my ditty, almost 500 years ago, to see the townsfolk suffer so from vermin was a pity. Rats, they fought the dogs and killed the cats and bit the babies in the cradles and ate the cheeses from the vats and licked the soup from the cook's own ladles, split open the kegs of salted sprats, made nests in the men's Sunday hats, and even spoiled the women's chats by drowning out their speaking with shrieking and squeaking in 50 different sharps and flats. At last the people in a body to the town hall came flocking. "'Tis clear," cried they, "our mayor is a naughty, and as for our corporation, shocking to think we buy gowns lined with ermine for dolts who can't or won't determine what's best to bring us up our vermin. You hope because you're old and obese to find in the furry civic robes ease. Rouse up, sirs. Give your brains a racking. Find the remedy we are lacking, or sure as fate will send you packing." At this the mayor and corporation quaked with a mighty consternation. An hour they sat in council. At length the mayor broke silence. "For a gilder eyed my ermine gown sell. I wish I were a mile hence. It's easy to bid one rack one's brain. I'm sure my poor head aches again. I scratch it so that all in vain. Oh, for a trap, a trap, a trap." Gypsy said this what should hap at the chamber door but a gentle tap. "Bless us," cried the mayor, "what's that?" With the corporation as he sat, looking little to wonder his fat. Nor brighter were his eyes, nor moister than a too long opened oyster, save when at noon his paunch grew mutinous for a plate of turtle green and glutinous. Only a scraping of shoes on a mat, anything like the sound of a rat makes my heart go pit-a-pat. "Come in," cried the mayor, looking bigger, and in did come the strangest figure. His long queer coat from heel to head was half yellow and half red, and he himself is tall and thin, with sharp blue eyes, each like a pin, and light loose hair and swarthy skin, nor tuft of hair on cheek nor beard on chin, but lips for a smile went out and in. There was no guessing his kith or kin, and nobody could enough admire this tall man in his quaint attire. Quoth one, "It's as my great-grandsire, starting up at the trump of doom's tone, had walked this way from his painted tombstone." He advanced towards the council table, and "Please, your honor," said he, "I am able, by means of secret charm to draw, all the creatures living beneath the sun, that crawl or swim or fly or run, after me so as you never saw. And I chiefly use my charm on creatures that do people harm, the mole and toad and newt and viper, and people call me the Pied Piper." And here they noticed round his neck a scarf of red and yellow stripe, to match with his coat of self-same check. And at scarf's end hung a pipe, and his fingers they noticed were ever straying, as if impatient to be playing upon this pipe, as low it dangled over his vesture so old-fangled. "Yes," said he, "Pied Piper as I am, in Tartaria fled the cam, last June from his huge swarms of gnats. I eased in Asia the Nizam of a monstrous brood of vampire bats. And as for what your brain bewilders, if I rid your town of rats, will you give me 1,000 guilders?" 50,000 was the exclamation of an astonished mayor and corporation. Into the street the piper stepped, smiling first a little smile, as if he knew what magic slept in his quiet pipe the while. Like a musical adept to blow his pipe, his lips he wrinkled, and green and blue his sharp eyes twinkled, like a candle flame where salt is sprinkled. And ere 3 shrill notes the pipe uttered, you heard as if an army muttered, and the muttering grew to a grumbling, and grumbling grew to a mighty rumbling. But out of the houses came the rats tumbling, great rats, small rats, lean rats, brawny rats, brown rats, black rats, gray rats, tawny rats, grave old plotters, gay young friskers, fathers, mothers, uncles, cousins, cocking tails and pricking whiskers, families by tens and dozens, brothers, sisters, husbands, wives, followed the Pied Piper for their lives. From street to street he piped advancing, and step for step they followed dancing, until they came to the river Weser, wherein all plunged and perished, save one who as stout as Julius Caesar, swam across and lived to carry, as he the manuscript he cherished, to rat land home his commentary, which was, at first shrill notes of the pipe, I heard a sound as of scraping tripe, and putting apples wondrous ripe into the cider presses bright, and moving away of pickle cup boards, and leaving a jar of conserve cupboard, and drawing the corks of train oil flasks, and
break noots of butter casks, and it seemed as if a voice, sweeter far than by harp or by sullery breed, called out, "Oh, rats, rejoice! The world is growing to a vast rice-saltery. So munch on, crunch on, take your nunch on, breakfast, supper, dinner, lunch on, and just some bulky sugar punch on, already staved like a great sun shone, gracious scarce an inch before me, just when we thought its head come for me, I found the western rolling over me." You should have heard the Hamlin people ring the bells, they rock the steeple. "Go," cried the mayor, "and get long poles, poke out the nests and block up the holes. Consult with carpenters and builders, and leave in our town not even a trace of the rats." When suddenly up the face of the piper perked in the marketplace, with the first, if you please, my 1,000 guilders. 1,000 guilders. The mayor looked blue, so did the corporation too. The council dinners made rare havoc with claret, Moselle, vin de gras, hop, and half the money would replenish their cellar's biggest butt of Rhenish, to pay the sum to a wondering fellow, with gypsy coat of red and yellow. Besides, quoth the mayor with a knowing wink, our business was done at the river's brink. We saw with our eyes the vermin sink, and what's dead can't come to life, I think. So, friend, we're not folks to shrink from our duty of giving you something to drink, in a matter of money to put in your poke. But as for the guilders, what we spoke of them, as you well know, wasn't joke. Besides, the losses have made us thrifty. 1,000 guilders, come take 50. The piper's face fell and he cried, "No trifling, I can't wait beside. I promise a visit by dinner time, Baghdad, and accept the prime of the head cook's potage, all he's rich in, for having left in the Caleb's kitchen. Of a nest of scorpions, no survivor. With him I proved no bargain driver. With you don't think I'll bait a stagger. And folks who put me in a passion, they find me pipe after another fashion." "How," cried the mayor, "do you think I brook, being worse treated than a cook, insulted by a rival, with idle pipe and best revival? Threaten us, fellow, do your worst, blow your pipe there till you burst." Once more he stepped into the street, to his lips again laid his long pipeless whose straight cane, and ere he blew 3 notes, such sweet soft notes as yet musicians cutting never gave in rapid air. There was a rustling, it seemed like a bustling, a brand crowd jostling, a pitching and hustling. Small feet were pattering, wooden shoes clattering, little hands clapping, and little tongues chattering. Like foals in the farmyard and barley is scattering, out came the children running, all the little boys and girls, with rosy cheeks and flaxen curls, and sparkling eyes and teeth like pearls. Tripping and skipping ran merrily after, the wonderful music was shouting and laughter. The mayor was dumb and the council stood as if they're changed into blocks of wood, unable to move a step or cry, to the children merrily skipping by. Could only follow with an eye that joyous crowd at the piper's back, and how the mayor was on the rack, and the wretched council's bosom beat as the piper turned from the high street, to where the Weser rolled its waters, right in the way of their sons and daughters. How he returned from south to west, into Copperberg Hill his steps addressed, and after him the children pressed. Great was the joy in every breast. He never crossed the mighty top, he's forced to let the piping drop, and we shall see our children stop. When lo, they reached the mountainside, a wondrous portal opened wide, as if a cavern was suddenly hollowed. The piper advanced, and the children followed, and when all were in to the very last, the door in the mountainside shut fast. Did I say all? No, one was lame and could not and could not dance a whole the way. And in after years, if you'd blame his sadness, he was used to say, "It's dull in our town since my playmates left. I can't predict that I'm bereft of all the pleasant sights they see, which the piper also promised me. For he led, as he said, to a joyous land, joining the town at just at hand, where waters gushed and fruit trees grew, and flowers were forth fairer hue. And everything was strange and new. The sparrow was brighter than a peacock here, and their dogs outran our fellow deer, and honeybees had lost their stings, and horses were born with eagle's wings. And just as I became assured, my lame foot be speedily cured, the music stopped, and I stood still, and found myself outside the hill, left behind against my will, to go now limping as before, and never hear of that country more. Alas, alas, for Hamelin, there came into many a burgher's pate a text which says that heaven's gate opes the rich at his easy rate, as the needle's eye takes a camel in. The mayor sent east, west, north, and south to offer the piper by word of mouth. Wherever was men's lot to find him, silver and gold to his heart's content, if only he'd return the way he went, and bring the children behind him. But when they saw 'twas lost endeavor, and piper and dancer were gone forever, they made a decree that lawyers never should take their records dated duly, if after the day of the month and year these words do not as well appear. And so long after what happened here, on the 22nd of July, 1376, and the better in memory to fix the place of the children's last retreat, they called it the Pied Piper Street, where anyone playing pipe or tabor was sure for his future lose his labor, nor suffered a hostelry or tavern, shocked with mirth the streets were solemn, and opposite the place of the cavern, they wrote the story on a column, and on great church window painted, the same to make the world acquainted, how their children were stolen away, and there it stands this very day. And I must not admit to say, that in Transylvania there is a tribe of alien people who ascribe the way and dress in which their neighbors lay such stress to their fathers and mothers having risen out of some subterranean prison into which they were trepanned a long time ago in a mighty band out of Hamlin towns in Brunswick land, but how or why they don't understand. So, Lily, let me and you be wipers, scores out with all men, especially pipers. And if they should pipe us free from rats or from mice, if we promise aught, let us keep our promise. Pizza. We only have bagels here. I could make you a pizza bagel with cheddar cheese. I don't think we have mozza here, unfortunately. And we don't have pepperoni. I can make you like a vegetarian with cheddar. That wouldn't be very good. We need to get mozza and pepperoni though and make pizza bagels here. That would be really good. Yeah, I was reciting a poem by Robert Browning. He was a Victorian poet, so I don't know, that poem was probably written 200 years ago, maybe earlier. I don't know. It would have been the 19th century, I think. Yeah, he was Victorian, so. Yeah, the 19th century. And yeah, that was the Pied Piper of Hamelin. Yeah, I know another poem by Robert Browning called Child Rollin' to a Dark Tower Came. I can also recite that one. I usually do that as well in the morning. So yeah, so that's okay, this one's Child Rollin' to a Dark Tower Came by Robert Browning. My first thought was he lied in every word, that hoary cripple with malicious eye, askance to watch the working of his lie on mine, and most scarce able to afford suppression of the glee that pursed and scored its edge at one more victim gained thereby. What else should he be set for with his staff? What saved the waylay with his lies and snare all travelers who might find him posted there? And asked the road, I guess what skull like laugh would break, what crutch can write my epitaph for pastime in the dusty thoroughfare? If at his counsel I should turn aside into ominous track which all agree hides the dark tower, yet acquiescingly I did turn as he pointed, neither pride nor hope rekindling at the end descried, so much as gladness some end might be. For what with my whole world wide wondering, what with my search drawn out through years, what hope dwindled into a ghost not fit to cope with that obstreperous joy success would bring, I hardly tried now to rebuke the spring my heart made finding failure in its scope. As a sick man very near to death seems dead indeed, and feels begin and end to tears, and takes a farewell of each friend, and hears one bid the other go, draw breath freelier outside, since all is over, he saith, and the blow fallen no grieving can amend. while some discuss if near other graves be room enough for this, and when a day suits best for carrying the corpse away, with care about banners, scarfs, and staves. And still the man hears all and only craves, he may not shame such tender love and stay. Thus I had for so long suffered in this quest, heard failure prophesied so oft being writ, so many times among the band of wit, the knights who to dark towers search and rest their steps, that just to fail as they seem best, and all doubt was now should I be fit. So quiet as despair I turned from him, that hateful cripple, out of his highway into the path he pointed. All the day had been a dreary one at best, and dim was settling into its close, yet shot one grim red leer to see the plain catch its stray. For mark, no sooner was I fairly found, pledged the plain after a pace or two, than pause and throw backward a last view. Over the safe road 'twas gone, grey plain all round, nothing but plain to the horizon's bound. I must go on, naught else remained to do. So on I went. I think I never saw such starved, ignoble nature. Nothing throve, for flowers as well expect a cedar grove, but chortle and spurge according to their law might propagate their kind with none to awe. You'd think a burr had been a treasure trove. No penry inertness and grimace in some strange sort were the land's portion. See or close your eyes, said nature peevishly. It nothing skills, I can't help my case. 'Tis last judgment's fire must cure this place. Calcine its clods and set my prisoners free. If there pushed any ragged thistle stalk above its mates, its head was chopped. The bents were jealous else. What made the holes and rents in the dock's harsh forest leaves? Bruised as to balk all hope of greenness. 'Tis a brute must walk, passion their life out with the brute's intents. As for the grass, it grew as scarce as hair and leprosy. Thin, dry blades pricked the mud, which underneath looked kneaded up with blood. One stiff, blind horse, as every bone a stare, stood stupefied however he came there, thrust out past service and the devil's stud. Alive, he might be dead for aught I know, with red, gaunt, and callop neck restrained, and shut eyes beneath the rusty mane. Seldom went such grotesqueness with such woe. I never saw a brute I hated so. He must have been wicked to deserve such pain. I shut my eyes and turned them on my heart. As a man calls for wine before he fights, I asked for earlier and happier sights. So I lost my place. So when I lose my place, I usually have to start over. I was reciting a little bit quickly. Yeah, thanks. For some reason, I get nervous when I know that I have an audience. Yeah. I know the whole thing. It's just that. Where was I? I wonder if I can start from. So I've noticed in the kitchen it gets really, really hot. They got to figure out some kind of air conditioning because I get like super, super duper hot in here. And my brain gets overheated. Oh. My first thought was he lied in every word, that hoary cripple with malicious eye, askance to watch the working of his lie on mine, and most scarce able to afford suppression of the glee that pursed and scored its edge at one more victim gained thereby. What else should he be set for with his what else should he be set for with his staff? save to waylay with his lies and snare all travelers who might find him posted there. And asked the road, I guessed what skull-like laugh would break, what crutch can write my epitaph for pastime in the dusty thoroughfare. If at his counsel I should turn aside into ominous tracks which all agree hides the dark tower, yet acquiescently I did turn as he pointed, neither pride nor hope rekindling at the end descried, so much as gladness some end might be. For what with my whole world wide wondering, what with my search drawn out through years, my hope dwindled into a ghost not fit to cope with that obstreperous joy success would bring. I hardly tried now to rebuke the spring my heart made finding failure in its scope. As a sick man very near to death seems dead indeed, and feels begin and end the tears, and takes the farewell of each friend, and hears one bid the other go, draw breath freelier outside. Since all is over, he saith, and the blow fallen no grieving can amend. While some discusseth near other graves be room enough for this, but when the days is best for carrying the corpse away, with care about banners, scarfs, and staves, and still the man hears all and only craves, he may not shame such tender love and stay. Thus I had for so long suffered in this quest, heard failure prophesied so oft been writ, so many times among the band to wit, the knights who to dark tower search addressed their steps, the gist to fail as they seem best, and all doubt was now should I be fit. So quiet as despair I turned from him, that hateful cripple, out of his highway in the path he pointed, all the day had been a dreary one at best, and dim was settling into its close, it shot one's grim red deer to see the plains catch the stray. For march, no sooner was I fairly found, pledged the plain after a pace or two, then pausing for back for the last view, over the safe road 'twas gone, grey plain all round, nothing but plains and horizons found. I must go on, naught else remained to do. So on I went, I think I never saw such starved ignoble nature, nothing throve, for flowers as well expect to see or grow, like chortle and spurge according to their law, might propagate their kind with none to awe. You'd think a bird had been a treasure trove. No penry inert the same from ace in some strange sort were the land's portion. See or close your eyes, said nature peevishly, and nothing skills. I can't help my case. 'Tis God's judgment's fire must cure this place, calcine its clods and set my prisoners free. If there pushed any ragged thistle stalk above its mates, its head was chopped. The bents were jealous elves, what made the holes and rents in the dock's far swore its leaves. Bruises to balk all work of greenness. 'Tis a brute must walk, passing their life out the brute's intents. As for the grass, it grew as scarce as hair in leprosy. Thin, dry blades pricked the mud, which underneath was kneaded up with blood. One stiff blind horse, as every bone stared, stood stupefied however he came there, thrust out past service from the devil's stud. Alive, he might be dead for aught I know, with red gaunt and callous neck astrain, and shut eyes beneath the rusty mane. Seldom went such grotesqueness with such woe. I never saw a brute I hated so. He must have been wicked to deserve such pain. I shut my eyes and turned them on my heart, as a man calls for wine before he fights. I asked one draft of earlier, happier sights, or if it I could hope to play the part. Think first, fight afterwards, a soldier's art. One taste of all time sets all to rights. Not it. I fancied Cuthbert's reddening face beneath its garniture of curly gold. Dear fellow, till I almost felt him fold an arm in mine to fix me to that place. That way he used, alas, one night's disgrace. I wet my heart's new fire and left it cold. Giles, then, the soul of honor, there he stands, frank as 10 years ago and knighted first. An honest man should dare, he said he durst. Good scene shifts, thaw what hangman's hand pinned to his breast the parchment. His own boundaries it, poor traitor spit upon and cursed. Better this present than a past like that. Back therefore to my darkening path. No sound, no sight as far as the eye can strain. Will the night send a howl or a bat, I asked, when something on the dismal flat came to arrest my thoughts and change their train. A sudden river crossed my path, as unexpected as a serpent came. No tides congenial to the glooms. This is a frost by might have been a bath of feet for the might have been a bath for the feet of the food. Might have been Glad was I to reach the other bank, now for a better country, vain presage. Who are the strugglers? What war did they wage? Whose savage trample could thus pad the dank soil to a plash? Toads in a poisoned tank, or wild cats in a red hot cage. And more than the fight must so have seemed in that foul cirque. What penned them there with all the plain to choose? No footsteps leading to that horrid news. None out of it. Mad brew had set to work their brains, no doubt, like galley slaves to Turk. Pitchforks pastime, Christians against Jews. And more than that, a furlong on, why there? What bad use was that engine for? That wheel or brake, not wheel. That harrow fixed reel men's bodies out like silk. With all the air of talk its tool, on earth left unaware, or brought to sharpen its rusty teeth of steel. Then came some stub down, once wood, next to March it would seem. Now mere earth, desperate and done with, so the fool finds mirth, makes a thing and mars it, till his mood changes and off he goes. Within a rude bog, clay and marsh, sand and stark black dirt. Now blotches rankly colored giving grim, now patches where some leanness of the soils broke into moss or substances like boils. Then came a palsied oak, a cleft in him, a distorted mouth that splits its rim, gaping at death and dies while it recoils. As far as ever from the end, not from the distance with the evening knot, to point my footsteps further at the thought, great black bird, Apollyon's bosom's friend, sailed past, nor beat his wide wings dragging pen, that brushed my cap perchance the guide I saw. For looking up where I somehow grew, the plain and given place all round, the mountains with such names, to grace mere heights and heaps now stolen in view. How thus they surprised me solving you, how to get from there was no clearer case. Yet half I seem to recognize some trick of mischief had happened to me, God knows when, in a bad dream perhaps. Here ended then progress this way, when in the very nick of one more time, came a click as when the trap sets you're in the den. Burningly it came upon me all at once, this was the place. Those two hills crouched like two bulls off horn in fight, while to the left a tall stout mountain, once daughter to dozing at the very nuts, after a lifetime of training for the sight. What in the midst lay but the tower itself, the round squat turret, blind as a fool's heart, built of brown stone without a counterpart in the whole world. The tempest mocking out points to the shipman thus the unseen shelf, he strikes on only when timbers start. Not see, because of night perhaps, why day came back to that. Behind it left the dying sunset, kindled through a cleft. The hills like two giants in the hunting lay, chin upon hand to see the game at bay. Now stab and end the creature to the heft. Not here, what noise was everywhere, it told, increasing like a bell, names in my ears, of lost adventurers, my peers, how such was strong, and such was bold, and such was fortunate, yet each of old, lost, one moment now, the woe of years. There they stood, ranged along this hillside bed, to view the last of me, a living frame, for one more picture in a sheet of flame. I saw them and knew them all, and yet, dauntless, a slughorn to my lips I set and blew. Child Roland to a dark tower came. Oh, I don't know why. I don't know why I was having so many problems with that poem. I get my thoughts interrupt my interrupts my performance. I need to focus on improving my concentration, I think. Do you believe? There once was a young man named Roland Pye who played the recorder when he wasn't baking bagels. One day he was walking through a park and playing his recorder to rest a while from all his baking, when suddenly he spied a corpse lying on the ground beneath a swarm of flies. He put down his recorder, walked over to the corpse, shooed the flies away, and covered the dead man with stones. Returning to his oven later that day, he found that his oven blade had gone on by itself and already baked half the bagels he needed. From that day on, Roland Pye was the happiest baker alive. He would bake until he was tired. Then he would pull his recorder out of his pocket while his oven blade went on by itself. But Roland Pye lived in a town whose mayor did not admire his skill and was jealous of his fame. So the mayor devised a plan to rid the town of Roland. In the beginning, he said that Roland was a good worker but lazy. Next, he said that Roland baked a whole lot but badly. Then he accused Roland of being a sorcerer, and the people turned on him. Roland Pye therefore took his recorder and left his home behind. When Roland Pye came to a neighboring town, he went to all the business owners, but none of them would give him any work. Finally, he met an old busker and asked him for work to keep body and mind together. "Come along with me," said the old man, "and we will share alms." So Roland Pye, the old man, started going around and singing, "Baker, why do you bear those silent things? Baker, how did you forget to stand where your feet are? Baker, no woman loves your wealth, although it is golden and good for health. Baker, you are too dirty for a lover to wish to preen. Your limbs are the knots and cords of an old-fashioned machine. Baker, line the rings and bash the boards. You don't need their applause for a thing that is yours. You are a baker and are what you are, not by a miracle, but by the work of your arms. Baker, stand where your feet are." Everybody gave alms to the old man, but to Roland they said, "What is a young man like you out begging? Why don't you work for a living?" "Nobody will hire me," cried Bill. "Nobody will hire me," replied Roland Pye. "That's what you say. There is a king with so many hungry soldiers that he'll pay good wages to anyone willing to feed them." So Roland Pye went to the king's kitchen and took the old man whose alms he'd been sharing. The oven had never been used by anyone. Roland mixed the dough. Then he rolled it into rings. Then he boiled them, dressed them with seeds. Then he baked them until they were golden brown. Then he tossed them into a crate to cool down. Whenever Roland wearied of playing his recorder, he would play his recorder. And once he was weary of playing his recorder, he'd sing, "Baker, why do you bear those silent things? Baker, how did you forget to stand where your feet are? Baker, no woman loves your wealth, although it is golden and good for her health. Baker, you are too dirty for a lover to wish to preen. Your limbs are the knots and cords of an old-fashioned machine. Baker, line the rings and bash the boards. You don't need their applause for a thing that is yours. You are a baker and are what you are, not by a miracle, but by the work of your arms. Baker, be who you are." Hearing the singing, the princess looked out the window. She saw Roland and fell in love with him. But she was a princess and he a baker. The king would never consent to their marriage. So they decided to run away together. They fled at night in a boat. When they were already on the high seas, Roland remembered the busker. He said to his beloved, "We must fetch the old man, since he shared his alms with me. We can't go off and leave him like that." At that very moment, the old man came up behind the boat, walking on the water as though it had been dry land. Reaching the boat, he said, "We agreed to divide everything we had, and I shared everything I had. Now you have the king's daughter and must give half of her to me." At that, he gave Roland Pide a knife to cut his bride in two. Roland Pide took the knife with a trembling hand. "You are right," he said. "You are perfectly right." He was on the point of cutting his bride in two when suddenly the old man stopped him. "Stop! I knew you were a just man. I am the dead man, mind you, whom you buried with stones. Go now, and may the two of you always be happy." The old man walked away on the waves. The boat came to an island rich in all good things, with a princely palace awaiting the newlyweds. I have problems with words today.